Well, hello and welcome to the Super Connector show, where I'm delighted to be joined by Jane Fisher, who is the founder of Fresh Perspectives Northeast. How are you doing, Jane?
Not too bad. I don't think anybody behind the scenes knows that we've had some technical issues. So here we are at last. So apologies for the slight delay.
Yeah,
Had to
well
navigate
done for
it.
staying calm during that. It reminded me of my first job when I worked in tech support, and I had to try and talk someone through blindly what was going on. But yeah, well done for you got there in the end.
Yes.
So let's just start by saying who you are and what you do with Fresh Perspectives Northeast.
Okay. So yeah. I'm Jane Fisher, and I've been running a consultancy business for nearly 12 years now. Well, actually, it's 12 years this month actually. So I set up a leadership consultancy business, Jane Fisher Associates, 12 years ago. But then I pivoted the business and created a sub-brand called Fresh Perspectives Northeast, which enabled me to do all the work I love, which is one-to-one work with business owners and founders and senior leaders in organizations, work with strategic teams, but using the outdoors as a medium to actually sort of supercharge that. So it's sort of blending support in strategic leadership with the outdoors. And I'm sort of the glue between that to sort of catalyze much greater thinking, greater clarity of thought, and therefore improve the decision makings and all the problem solving and all the challenges that colleagues are actually facing at the moment.
Yeah, great. So why the outdoors? What's so good about the outdoors? I know the answer, but I'll let you explain it.
Yeah, I guess as many people probably experience themselves when they go outside, there is something about the power of the outdoors in the fact that it actually gives us a greater degree of clarity. When you step outside, some of the issues that we're facing, or the clutter that we have back in the office, or the interruptions, or the challenges, or the day-to-day issues that we're handling, they sort of disappear, they float away for a temporary period of time. And it allows us to have much greater, as I say, clarity of thought, which then enables us to solve problems more quickly, even more creatively, and actually spot opportunities that actually we probably would otherwise miss. And being a sort of a geeky scientist behind the scenes, when I did my degree, it was in biology and how the body and the brain operates. The magic of the outdoors actually at that cellular level is absolutely fascinating. So I've tried to blend all that together so that it enhances what I do and takes it to another level, I guess. So it is about removing all that clutter, as I said, that we face, to give us ourselves the time and the space, which now, with all the issues that people are facing at the moment, we've got, issues with all the taxes. We've got issues around business growth at the moment. We've got engagement issues with colleagues in teams. There's a lot of stuff that our leaders are actually handling. So a bit of space and a bit of a boost in how those problems can be solved is always received particularly well.
Yeah. So why? I love getting outside and into the outdoors. I know you do, and you live in a lovely part of the world as well. But what do you think is maybe stopping people from doing this more?
I think there's a perception that you have to go yomping on the hills. It's grabbing your walking boots, rucksack and outdoor coat and eating Kendal mint cake. But actually, it isn't that. For me, it's about 100 yards from your office, there is going to be somewhere where you can walk outdoors. So I was in Newcastle on Friday, meeting up with colleagues. We walked by the river, we went into Leazes Park, we went to Castle Keep, and even you will know that in Sunderland, there's so many spaces, even in some of our business parks, there are spaces like Forum Park, where you can just so easily get outside. So it's not like you're having to interrupt what you're doing. You can create that 10-minute thinking space in your everyday. You can take a phone call on the go. You can go outside and have a conversation with another colleague and do some problem solving. You don't have to be tied to your desk. And the impact that actually has is absolutely phenomenal. And for me, it's about those bite-sized chunks. It's around, as I said, it's 10 minutes here, it's 10 minutes there. It's making it a habit so that it, in many ways, it's a bit like a hybrid plus approach to hybrid working. We currently have working at home, we have working in the office. Why not have the opportunity to work outdoors? Because that autonomy that people will have, whether it's the leaders, whether it's their people in their organization, it really boosts engagement and trust in the organization. So, there are so many benefits, and I've just sort of hit the tip of the iceberg rather than everything underneath.
Well, I love it. You've got, I think, a slogan like outdoors is a habit, and I think that's a key thing. Making it a habit, making it a part of your everyday life. I know a lot of people, they wake up straight away, they're on their phone, they're maybe scrolling or social media or email. That's a habit because it's so easy and convenient for them to do.
Absolutely.
But if people can build it into the day, where it's at the start of the day, maybe they can go for a walk before they get underway with the meetings and the busyness of everyday life or the working life. That's maybe easier than taking time out middle of the day once other people are involved.
Well, I think that's the approach that most people would actually take. I personally would disagree in the fact that we shouldn't have to be doing it at the start of us going to work or end of work. I think it should be actually brought into our everyday working culture because of all the benefits that it actually brings us at the end of the day. Because the evidence shows us, if you start looking at all the evidence behind the scenes, just half an hour walking will actually boost our creativity by 60%. It will boost our productivity by 45%. Just 20 minutes in the outdoors, it doesn't matter if you're on the hills or whether you're outside in one of our parks or along the street. It actually will reduce cortisol and it will reduce our stress levels, and therefore people are able to manage things actually in work far more easily. 10 minutes outdoors will boost our mood and just make us feel so much better. So we actually go back into our workplace actually feeling much more positive, more engaged, more focused, and therefore ultimately our productivity increases, and ultimately then that benefits any business in the fact that the bottom line, the profitability, what actually happens in the organization actually gets boosted along the way. So actually embedding it as part of our working culture is actually where the magic actually happens. And I think for me, it's just really important that our leaders sort of are the role models for that, because they, colleagues within organizations will follow what their leaders are actually doing. So if they're taking that time out and they're sort of showing those behaviors, then it becomes part of that working culture, and therefore colleagues will feel that they are able to take these 10-minute thinking breaks, for example, or go outside with a colleague to solve a problem. And therefore it's just accepted. It's not like I think part of the perception is people say, well, they're having a bit of a skive, or, they're not doing any work. You can actually do that work in these, bite-sized chunks. And for me, I spend a lot of time in quality improvement, particularly within businesses as well as the public sector. And we've always advocated in the model doing that. It is small step changes. Change something, introduce something, make it sustainable, build on it and building it. And that's when the big changes actually happen. For me, it's about, small transformational steps rather than, the big impact. I'm making something sustainable and every day. And that's why outdoors is a habit, I guess.
Yeah, no, spot on there. I mean, like you say, the leaders set the tone, don't they, for the the behaviors and the culture of a business and organization. So there's a responsibility there for the senior leadership or the CEO or the managing director or whatever to give people permission to pause and take some time away from the desk and away from the meetings. So well, everyone, if you're an employee, you will get at least a lunch break. Might be half an hour, it might be an hour, but in that time, you don't have to sit at your desk, you don't have to eat at your desk, you're not chained to your desk. There might be times when it is harder to take time away than others, but there is a responsibility for the leaders and the employee themselves to get away from the work and do something different, and you will be happier and more productive and healthier as a result of it.
Yes.
But also, go on, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I was just going to come in on that one because there's been some recent surveys done, including via Deloitte, and I think some of the data is actually quite staggering. We're looking at 2024, 2025, and the data actually tells us at the moment that there's only 1 in 10 UK employees engaged at work, and that isn't. The estimate there is a cost to the UK economy of £293 billion, and that 49.7 days are lost per employee annually to ill health or presenteeism or stress. I mean, these are really, really significant figures. Is it 63% also of employees are showing signs of burnout? And although the other data is that 73% of employees are, define themselves as being satisfied at work, there is still a huge problem with, engagement and retention of employees. So, there is a huge culture problem going on within the workplace at the moment, and those figures will show how large it actually is. So, there's so much actually happening. There's some great work going on. Businesses are bringing in things like workshops. They're promoting the use of mindful apps, for example. There might be some well-being workshops that people can attend and so on. But what they are tending to do they're having some impact, but they generally are temporary in their impact. And the evidence is shown that, what is required is something a bit more sustainable. It is about embedding a structure, an approach that can actually change this and actually get to the root cause of some of the issues. And I actually found it quite fascinating that when I was, as I said, I'm a bit of a geeky scientist behind the scenes, and I don't like to do things which don't have, proof of impact. But when I explored this, the evidence showed that, for every £1 invested in changing the underlying issues within an organization, addressing these things around engagement, around stress, around, satisfaction of employees, for every £1, it can actually give you a return on investment of, is it £4.70 to £11? And that is these are the figures that people don't actually realize, that doing some changes to make people more positive, more engaged, have a bit more autonomy, help build the trust in the organization, the impact can be absolutely phenomenal. And I guess that's why I believe by stepping outside, and I mean that literally, and leading differently and enabling this sort of approach in business actually can make a huge difference, as I say, right down to the bottom line of the organization. And it's so easy. It's actually outside the door.
Yeah,
I just feel like I've been on my soapbox there. So
no, it's great, because it's not just a nice to have. It's not just a fluffy thing. I think it's the right thing to do for people, but also there is a benefit in terms of business productivity and bottom line and all that sort of stuff. So which some people will be more interested in that than being nice to people. But and you can do both. And why would you not? If you're going to give you some marginal gains, or everyone's going to be happier, your staff are going to stick around longer, they're going to be more engaged, they're going to be happier, they're going to be more productive, they're going to be healthier, it's going to be less sick days. I can't see any downside to this at all. And that's just the employees, like the leaders and the employees. But
Yeah.
if you're self-employed as well, there's definitely a lot of people guilty of just, especially if they work from home. They wake up, they start work, maybe they're working before they have breakfast, maybe they're working over breakfast, they're working throughout the day. They don't get up from the sofa or the desk or wherever they're working, in bed maybe. Yeah, and they might just work flat out non-stop all day and never leave the house. So that's got to be a big problem now for a lot of people.
I think so. I actually think, although hybrid working has a huge lot of positives, I think it has also brought, as you quite rightly say there, some challenges in the fact that, I mean, I can do it myself, get up at 6 o'clock. I have to think about sometimes, I need to put out a LinkedIn post or something. And then, you're getting up, having a cup of tea, and you're actually in front of your laptop at, 6 o'clock in the morning. Probably is not the healthiest thing to do. Although in my case, I guess I function quite well on a morning, and so I work with where my peaks are with productivity. But I think when you bring in these breaks through the day and actually just get outside, as I said, just 10 minutes at a time, a thinking break, solving a problem, taking a phone call, whatever, it actually is so more beneficial on our health, but also on our focus and productivity in the actual work that we're doing as well. So, but I think you're right. Working from home can be you can just sit there. I mean, I'm in an office here in the Allendale Forge Studios. There's lots of creative spaces, and there's a blend of us. Some of us are sort of got businesses, some are sort of artists, etc. But this space, I mean, I've got a sink, got kettle and everything. Sometimes if I don't make myself get outside, I could be sat in here for 7-8 hours. So we do, as you say, have to take a bit of responsibility and look after ourselves and make sure that we schedule time in for ourselves. We scroll, as you said before, on our phones. We're looking what's going on. Well, maybe we could do that actually outside, or actually just put our phone away and spend some time outside. So absolutely, it's our responsibility, and we need to look after our health, because there's one thing I learned, and it came last year. You do not know what is going to hit you out of the blue. So I got struck down by, what they thought initially was a heart attack. It turns out in the end, and I only discovered back in this May, that's 12 months later, well, longer than that I had a heart infection that took me out for 5 months or so. So, we have to look after ourselves, and that's mentally as well as physically. And I think we have that individual responsibility, but I think as employers, there's also a responsibility there to facilitate, great places to work and great opportunities for creating a real positive culture. And I think, there are so many great examples out around us. So on Friday, I was actually at Bonded Agency, and they had a presentation going on there. But then we went out on a wellbeing walk, just half an hour down to the swing bridge. It was brilliant. So we walked down there and then walked back. And, that's a working culture where, it's embraced, and the staff really enjoy it. They get a lot from it. It's optional. It's seen as contributing to productivity and well-being of colleagues. It helps them engage with the company, etc. And I'm sure there's lots of other businesses actually out there that are doing this sort of thing. But I think, for me, it's like, let's start rolling this out. Let's get businesses moving. As I said, quite literally as well as figuratively. We want businesses to grow, but we need our leaders and our people to grow alongside that and thrive, basically.
Well, I love that, because Bonded, if anyone doesn't know, Bonded Agency, they're definitely one of the top agencies, digital marketing agencies in the northeast or north of England. the leadership, they totally get this. Steve in particular,
Yeah.
he actively encourages the staff to get out and organizes these trips, these walks for all of the staff together. But I think he lives in a part of the world where he's got it on his doorstep as well, and in his personal life. But he's had a health scare as well. So in the past,
That's
where
true.
he wasn't looking after himself, and he was seriously ill, and I think since then, it's made him appreciate more the importance of looking after yourself for the people around you. So that he and they are a great example of a company that's very successful and gives people permission to get out and look after themselves.
And I think there's also, people can be quite critical of sort of these types of initiatives and think, oh, you know what, I haven't got time to do this myself, or I haven't got time to allow my colleagues to do that. But I think one of the things that I discover is that don't say that unless you try it. We're all very good, aren't we? Saying, no, that's a pointless exercise, that really. But actually, I always say, well, go for a walk with me. We can do it 20 minutes, half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour, 90 minutes, doesn't really matter. And actually see what the impact is of having somebody who can be objective, can be supportive and challenging, facilitate conversations, whether that's on a one-to-one basis or whether that's in small groups, and actually see what walking and talking and blending that into office type work, because I'm not advocating disappearing off for half a day or a full day at a time, yomping up hills and mountains. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely love walking along Hadrian's Wall or where I live. This is about just doing it, as I say, on your doorstep, making it easily accessible. Then colleagues might actually see what I'm talking about, because unless you try it, it's very difficult to articulate the power actually of it. And Mike Lowen, like I do, great guy, but he came out on a net walk with us, and because he was a bit skeptical about all of this stuff. And what was really great is that some months later, he invited me down to his house, and in the garden, he'd converted a garden room into the beehive. So he now works in an environment where he can access the outdoors, go for a walk. He's got the light coming in, and that was through just trying it. Because sometimes you've got to try these things and then make a judgment. And I'm really happy for people to try something and say, do you know what, that actually wasn't for me. I didn't really get what you're saying. And do you know what, that's absolutely fine. The beauty is you've had a go, and therefore you've seen whether it works or not. So, my invite is there, give it a whirl, try it and see what see what impact it actually has on you, your teams, your leadership teams, as well as the people in your organization. So I'm a strong believer in test it, and measure, test and measure, see what the difference is.
Yeah. I love that. So there's a couple of a few different things that you can offer. So there's individual leaders, business owners and leaders can join one of your net walks, one of your organized walks. So I've been on two, haven't I? One along Hadrian's Wall and one around Wylam.
That's right.
Both were brilliant. I loved it. Gave me a reason to get outdoors, which I do love going for walks. And I haven't been for as many long walks in recent months as I used to, but I just really enjoyed the conversations that I had with the other people there as well, and in a much more relaxed, informal way than if you had a meeting. If you have a meeting, you've got objectives, you're trying to get something out of the meeting, you want to make the most of your time. But the conversation might not flow as freely and as relaxed as it would if you're out for a 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour walk, or even just a half hour walk. So you're doing them regularly, aren't you? Those net walks.
Yeah. So I I guess I work at 4 different levels. So if we talk about the networking, that's all around building a community and the opportunity for people to get together, to meet one another. As you said, walking and talking in that environment, first of all, barriers are broken down. Conversation is much richer. And that connection is deeper. And instead of having like a 2-3 minute or even 5 minute, a networking event where you're face to face and it's quite intensive, here you get, 20 minutes plus walking side by side with somebody and discovering a lot more about them as individuals, their business or their organization, what their challenges are, what their successes are. And it's a fantastic way to be able to build up your own personal community within the business world. The other level is then in the actual organization. So there's 3 ways there. One is, as we said, on the one-to-one level with business owners and founders and the exec leaders of a business. And the reason why I like to work with them on a one-to-one basis is I've been sort of in their shoes in a slightly different role. So I spent 16 years sort of as a strategic leader within sort of education and within sort of the local government, responsible for strategy, responsible for leading initiatives across wide geographical areas, not even just in one organization, and making stuff actually happen. So all about strategic thinking, all about the planning, all about leading changes, all the resistance that everybody has. So I absolutely love being that accountability partner, that sounding board, that strategic thinking partner for leaders on a one-to-one basis. We blend that walking and talking alongside traditional ways, but generally off-site, because that's where you get away from all the clutter. That clarity comes and you see and seize those opportunities. So I absolutely love doing that, and that's really transformational, and seeing leaders grow. The decisions improve. They become more faster, more appropriate. They cope with the stresses more effectively. They're happy with decisions and not making regrets along the way. So that's really, really rewarding, and all that helps for both the leader and the business to actually grow. Also, then I work with the leadership teams and facilitate sort of strategy sessions. Again, it's blending the outdoors into that, but it's bringing that objectivity, it's bringing that facilitation, it's bringing that knowledge and experience to the table to help people think differently and help them to solve problems, maybe a bit more creatively, but ways in which they may not have thought about being stuck in their boardroom or in their offices, and not in another 4-walled environment, which we tend to do if we go off onto off-site into a hotel, for example. And then the last thing within businesses is this desire to change the culture and to bring the outdoors habit into the business. So that's where I'm able to apply my sort of consultancy and knowledge that way to help lead those culture changes. So yeah, it's really great, that one-on-one, strategic teams, organizational level, and community. It all feeds in and is a fantastic sort of pyramid there. And I absolutely love it. It's great. And I think that outdoors gives it such energy and zest and brings it more to life. And, if you put the strategic leadership, the outdoors, and me as the glue together to make it all sort of happen, it really does accelerate our thinking to help our businesses grow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just something popped into my head. Just when people talk about think outside the box, like the literal box of your room. Like most people work in a room, so like think outside the box, get outside and do your thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
because it is think outside your box, because we are in our own little boxes.
Yeah,
isn't it?
exactly. We spend a lot of time in boxes in little 4-wall rooms. Yeah, exactly. So let's get outside. And then if anyone's still doubting the value of getting outside, I mean, we talked the other day about like Steve Jobs was a massive advocate for getting out, walking and talking with his with their senior leaders, and that's where he did a lot of his great thinking and conversations, just walking and talking. So if it's good enough for Steve Jobs,
Absolutely.
You know, I think it's good
Yeah,
enough for anyone else watching this or anyone else who wants to be a great leader. Then yeah, there's plenty of other examples, not just Steve Jobs, but he's
well,
one.
Darwin was another one.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And you know, like obviously, with me and you, we do live in a lovely part of the world, the northeast of England. There's an abundance of great places to go for walks, not just in the countryside, but if you're in an urban area as well, or semi-rural, there's plenty of places you can go to. You can always find somewhere interesting to go to. It's not that far away. So yeah, like you say, encourage people to go join your organized, facilitated walks in lovely parts of the world, but also maybe bring you in to facilitate something for the senior leadership team
Absolutely.
or the staff to
Yeah.
run something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's have you had any resistance or much resistance from anyone who just thinks, nah, this just, what's the point of this? Let's just sit inside and never leave and never breathe any fresh air. Does anyone think like that?
I think there's plenty of people that think like that, and I'm just trying to think of what the three biggest killers or the areas of resistance actually are. One is I haven't got time, which is I always think is at
We're
the
all
top.
short on time. Everyone's short.
Always short on time. However, I would say to anybody, because our phones now tell us, don't they? You can go and see how much time is spent doing X, Y, and Z on our phones, whether it's scrolling, whether it's on news apps and everything. It's absolutely frightening when you start to look at that. And you only took a small section out of your day. You know, for me, I mean, I guess what I'm aiming for is the fact that in the next 5-10 years, you know, people start to take about 20% of their time, working week time, that is, actually outdoors to do some form of work, because of all the impact. But, you know, the argument, well, I actually haven't got time, in my book, is a bit of a fallacy. We all have time. What we do is we prioritize different things because that's what we feel is best for you. So my argument is scrolling on a phone during a break the best thing to do, or would it be better to go for a bit of a thinking walk or something like that, or go out with a colleague to discuss a challenge rather than just sitting there scrolling? So time is I think we can really kick into touch. And also the fact that you're not having to, as we've already said, travel from the office to, you know, rural Northumberland. We can actually walk out the door and find something. Even walking down a street or one of the parks, as I say, or by a river. There are so many different locations that you can actually go to get that mental break and get that clarity of thinking, remove all that clutter that's going off in our head, and actually, you know, solve problems, make decisions, bring an alternative view to a meeting, whatever it actually might be. So time is not a problem. Second reason people resistant is, and there was a meeting the other day I went to, and a lovely lady I met, and she said, "But you know what, Jane? The British weather's not very good, is it?" And I just, you know, I'm thinking, well, if we're just going to worry about the weather and not get outside, we are really, you know, it's not good, is it really? So, you know, even if the weather's bad, all we have to do is wrap up well and wear the right clothing. And if you're a bit canny, a business owner can actually, you know, maximize this. I was talking to one of the accountants last week, and I was asking, I think it was Gavin actually from Beach Accountants, about, you know, what are the benefits on you can get tax relief, for example, on clothing which is logoed. Can you imagine if you gave colleagues an umbrella with a logo on it, or if they had a waterproof jacket with your business logo on it? Not only are you actually encouraging them to get outside, to boost their well-being, produce their engagement at work, to boost their productivity, you know, all these personal and business money, but you're actually also promoting your business at the same time. So weather is not really an excuse, because actually, I mean, I might be a bit bit geeky in all of this, but the wind on your face, rain on your face, I'm even out there in the snow, and they all are really, refreshing at the end of the day, and really help to make us feel good, because it's not just about our visual senses, it's about the other senses that help to boost our morale, etc. So even that's not an excuse. So time, location, the weather, there are so many reasons why they're not excuse. Well, I don't think they are legitimate excuses. And I think one of the, I'm not the only one saying this. There was an article in the CEO magazine, which I was going to put out on LinkedIn, to be fair, but it was all about that CEOs, and this is coming from CEO magazine, they need to take pauses, they need to take breaks, they need to be able to take time out for thinking, based, all the stuff that I've been saying. But this was only recently, over the last couple of months or so, that this article came out. So it's not just me articulating this or promoting this sort of shift in how we work, but it's actually coming from the top organizations. You've got Google, you've got Microsoft, they're all advocating all of this. They're all facilitating their employees to be able to get out and leading the way. They practice what they preach as well. And I think it goes back to, leaders in our organizations walking the talk and demonstrating that these are really good practices, good habits actually to have. So yeah, so there are all the excuses I get, and I just sort of bounce it back. Try it. Don't give me the excuses until you've actually done it, and then come back to me and say it doesn't have any impact.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, there are, like anything, there's objections to anything that you're trying to encourage and promote, but you've got really good answers to all of those, and good evidence and data and science to back up the benefits and things that people can try and do to counter any of those objections that they've got. I mean, I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with getting my hair wet, so I can see it. I just wipe the rain off my bald head. But
my biggest challenge is my glasses. So I always have a peak cap, so that I don't get all the water on my glasses. So again, people, there are easy wins, easy things you can actually do.
Yeah, and maybe those rain hats, like a branded. Do you know what I mean? Like the sort of plastic hats that bring them back. Or
my goodness me! Yeah.
An umbrella on your head or something like that. Maybe that's something you should post on your social media as suggestions for how to combat the inclement weather.
But you know what? I don't know who said. I don't know who said the. There was a saying, wasn't there? There isn't anything called bad weather. It's just inappropriate clothing. And you know what? If you think about all the Scandinavian countries in particular, they're out there minus 15 degrees, whatever, snow, hail, rain, whatever, and the kids go out as well. If you explore what they do, the children are out in kindergarten in all the weather. So I do think we need over here to be a bit more brave and actually step outside when it's raining or when it's windy or when it's snowing. Why can't we do that? It's all a mindset, and it's something that we really, really need to change. And that's us as individuals, as well as us as leaders, and encouraging to get the best out of our people. But as I said, I believe that every leader and their team should be sort of outdoors at least 20% of their working week. And I think that, businesses will be judged on that. And the reason I say that is the fact that for me, and this belief and the evidence behind the scenes and the impact of, sustainable, structured culture change, what you'll get are really better performing, better places to work, which will retain staff and actually attract the best talent that company actually needs. You're going to stand out from the crowd and think, wow, what an amazing place to work. We got a hybrid plus approach to the working. We've got the autonomy to decide where is the best to solve a problem or how to work or get the best out of what we're trying to do. And our leaders are encouraging that. Therefore, we're all far better, we're less stressed, we're more focused, more productive, more engaged, happier at work, and therefore, productivity and profit will rise accordingly. So I feel like I'm a bit of a mission.
No, I love what you're doing, and I totally believe in what you're doing as well. And you've mentioned a few stats here, but I've got one here. So like 29 minutes outdoors can lead to a 45% plus productivity, and 20 minutes in nature reduces cortisol and all that sort of stuff. I think also just we talked about happiness as well, and that's like quite intangible. How do you measure that? But there is a big problem with people loneliness at work, and especially if they're working at home in isolation. They might be part of a team and they might be in lots and lots of meetings, but if they're just at home on their own all day long and in a room and they're not getting outdoors, that can really affect your mood and make you quite sad, and it can cause depression as well. So these are really major, serious things that people need to take into account as an individual, but definitely as a manager or a leader, you need to be doing something about this.
You do. And do you know what? Even when people are working from home, there are various technological apps on our phones and everything, which will enable us even to go for a walk with others, but on our own. I mean, I guess it's a different application to, you go for a walk and a talk, but you're actually talking to a colleague. And that was it when I was at the Bonded event on Friday. I was talking to a guy there, and he said, and they're in recruitment. And he said quite a few of their team actually go for a walk whilst they're talking to somebody about a job and everything, because it facilitates that conversation. It brings more ideas. It improves that sort of connectivity, and it just flows better by being outside. So again, that was a really great example of this sort of approach in practice. It goes back to just small steps. We're not talking about huge changes. It's just one little habit here and another habit there, all building up to make tangible changes. And for me, when I work with a client and it's about bringing this sort of strategy into their organization. So I created a 90-day challenge that I can facilitate in businesses to actually embed this outdoor culture. What I'm particularly interested in is the fact that it has to demonstrate impact. And it goes back to my science roots. We always had hypotheses. We always had to gather data. And we had to prove the hypothesis correct. Well, it's no different for me in what I do. There's no point investing in anything unless it demonstrates some form of impact. And that can be a return on investment, or it could be a return, give some value elsewhere. So for me, it's always about identifying the key tangibles that people want to explore. That could be around people's happiness. It could be around their engagement. It could be around their productivity. It could be around, how many people are sort of participating. But it's always essential to gather some data before you change something, so that you can show the actual impact. And I bet my bottom dollar, or maybe I ought to say bet my bottom pound, that actually there is always some positive impact when we do this sort of work at a cultural level, or even at a team level. And you can even demonstrate it at individual level with an actual leader. So, it's really, really important, to find the right elements that you want to look at. I mean, at a business level, it could be around absenteeism or presenteeism or retention of your staff as well. And culturally, one of the biggest things that leaders require these days in our challenging times is that their people have trust in them. So again, you can demonstrate that bringing this sort of approach, giving staff autonomy to make decisions of how and where they're working, will actually improve trust, which builds better relationships between leaders and their teams. And therefore, again, it helps that business to fly. So again, leaders, people, business thrive, and that's what we're all after at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, I love it. Also, like a lot of people, you talk about friendship, like I've read research or heard stuff where people say the people that are happiest at work are people who have a friend at work, even if it's just someone like that they can talk to and have a coffee with and feel like a lot of people don't have a friend, right? But like from what I understand, like you get friendships, you form friendships with people through shared experiences.
Yeah.
So if you're going for walks and it's an enjoyable experience, you're gonna be closer to those colleagues than if you're just working in isolation. I've worked in lots of teams where you're part of a team, but you are the only person doing that particular role.
Yeah.
So you are, by definition of the word, you're in isolation, doing your own thing. No one else really understands what you're doing, and you work together. But going for a walk together or facilitated experience, you're gonna form closer relationships. You're gonna have better teamwork, and things are gonna be more fluid and productive and effective as a result.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, when you go outside, I said before, the barriers go down. People have a greater freedom for how they, what they're saying, sharing their views. I mean, you often get when you have sort of senior colleagues with their team members, some people feel quite inhibited with actually sharing their ideas and their thoughts around something. But there's something magical about when you go outdoors in the fact that all of that sort of evaporates. The hierarchy disappears for a start. The relationships change, and therefore people feel far more comfortable being able to share their ideas and their thoughts. And, taking that also back to what you were saying about that loneliness angle, it really does then help them to feel more part of their team as those relationships actually flourish as well. So, it is a great way for team building and connection. And, so one of the things that people say, oh, you're one of those people that take teams outdoors on the mountains or in the hills and doing team building exercises. And again, no, I know some brilliant people who actually do that sort of thing, taking people well away and carrying out those sort of exercises. No, for me, it's just using the outdoors as a new environment, that the hybrid plus, working in the office, working at home, working outdoors, to in everyday business practices, building that community within work, which it reduces that loneliness, as you mentioned, and makes people feel happier and more satisfied and actually wanting to rock up to work, and not. They use the word presenteeism at the moment, the fact that people are present, but they're not actually really engaged in their work. So, it really does help to overcome all those issues as well.
Yeah, no, I love that. When you're talking about, it can be quite confrontational or intimidating someone if people are opposite someone on a desk. But when you're side by side, it's much more relaxing to talk to someone who's to the side of you and you're both looking ahead at where you're walking than when you're face on. So there'll be some science around that, but it definitely is true from what I've experienced and what I've read and heard as well. So yeah, I love it.
On that one, a classic one, I've got colleagues in the HR world, and they always encourage others to, when they've got a challenging conversation to be had with a colleague, to actually do that walking outdoors, because it takes away a lot of the stress and the strain out of that conversation. It allows the conversation to flow more easily. And it goes back to what you were saying. You are not sat opposite one another, eyeball to eyeball, over a desk, where you can actually have that more challenging conversation in a more relaxed, less confrontational and more constructive environment, as you say, side by side, and removing all that clutter really that could impact on that conversation.
Yeah, Fantastic. So if people want to find out more, obviously they can follow you on LinkedIn, and you're on other social media channels as well, or is LinkedIn the main?
No, LinkedIn is my main one. I always keep saying when I had the JFA Instagram, the idea was to post on there, but I've decided managing one platform is enough for me. So yeah, I stick primarily then to LinkedIn, but we've obviously got the website. Fresh Perspectives Northeast, which is www.fpne.co.uk. So people can explore the website, and on the website you can actually join the community where can share insights about and give you information about various events like the networking or the tread walks, as we call them. They generally get promoted on Eventbrite. But of course, anybody can direct message me on LinkedIn as well. And if anybody would like to take up the 90-day challenge, there are two versions. One is for a leader and their leadership team to bring the outdoors into their strategic thinking, their problem solving, their strategic planning, and how they're implementing changes. Or there's the 90-day challenge, which is all around bringing that change of culture into your organization. And they're, 3 months building that habit and see the actual impact, then that would be absolutely amazing. Because, at the end of the day, I'm here really to help leaders thrive, their people to thrive, and their business to thrive through this outdoor habit. So, simply come along for a thinking or a strategy walk and discover more and see if it's actually for you. You've got to try it before you say that it's no good. So I guess that's my mini challenge out there, really.
Fantastic. So so obviously individuals who want to join anything that you're running. Have you got some events coming up soon? Or no?
There will be another tread walk in October.
Right, yeah.
There's sort of August and September has been a bit of a break there. So there'll be something in October.
Is that going to be, do you know where that's going to be yet? Or?
I think no, I can't remember where that one actually is. I think it might be near Hadrian's Wall or a bit nearer the Newcastle way. So I'll double check on that one. Hadn't got that one prepared in my head.
No, that's good. Well, definitely, I would definitely encourage people to do. I've done two of them and they were excellent. I think I did one on my birthday.
You did. I do remember that. Absolutely.
So for me, that I woke up, spent some time with my partner and our kids. Then I thought, okay, what do I want to do on my birthday? Well, what better way to spend the day than outdoors on a walk with other business owners and leaders? And it was a great way to spend my birthday. And then I went out for a birthday meal later on as well with my parents and the kids as well. So yeah, so I'm going to say, to me, it was a great way to spend your day on my birthday, but any day really. But you're keen to speak to business leaders and HR professionals, I presume?
Yeah, definitely. Sort of business execs, sort of business leaders, founders, business owners, the ones that are the decision makings and are responsible for, all those strategic decisions. I'd say that's my area of expertise. That's what I absolutely love helping people do. And that can be for helping them on a one-to-one level or as a team. And obviously HR colleagues in those decision-making positions where, they may have some people challenges or they want to make it a better place for working, build on what they currently already have by bringing the outdoors into that. And we can explore something like the 90-day challenge for that. And people can ring me. I'm happy to share my mobile number if that's an appropriate place to do it, which is 07837 024374, or you can email me, which is jane@fpne.co.uk. And the FPNE stands for Fresh Perspectives Northeast.
Love it. Well, I think we'll leave it there. always enjoy talking to you and listening to you, Jane. I think it's
Thank
really
you.
valuable and important work that you're doing. So I would encourage anyone watching this or listening to this to check out what you're doing and to get involved, either join your organised walks or to bring you in for a conversation. I'm looking across the room here at my sleepy puppy, my new dog. So I'm going to take her out for a walk after this.
Excellent.
That's another tip. Get yourself a dog, and then you're going to have to go out for a walk every day. So yeah, she's been very, very good throughout this. But I'm going to go out for a walk around the park now.
Fantastic. But thank you, Paul. Thank you so much for having me on. I mean, technical glitches before, and I'm surprised.
It's worked perfectly.
It's like, oh my God. But anyway, we did it. And an hour has flown by. So thank you so much.
There's lots of comments that have been coming through as well. So I haven't had a chance to read them out, but there are lots of comments. So we can respond to them.
Oh, brilliant.
And,
See, I haven't seen any of that. I've no idea what's going on out there.
No, it's, I think it's been a popular conversation, so that's really good. I think it is an important topic that a lot of people are interested in. So,
and I do, you know, doing something like this is very much taking me well out of my comfort zone, and I do think changing the culture in a business, in an organization, is really taking colleagues out of their comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
But if you do it, if you push it, we grow as individuals, and you got to, as I say, it goes back to trying these things. That's how we grow as individuals and grow as organizations. So yeah, I can now.
You can relax now.
Sigh of relief, and yeah, thank you so much.
No, thank you, Jane. All right, okay, take care. Bye.
Bye.